lessons in school had taught me the cruel history of my country of Poland, which had been invaded repeatedly over the centuries. In my fantasies, I was always caught up in a heroic struggle. I saw myself saving lives, sacrificing myself for others.
Irene Opdyke, a Holocaust rescuer, is battling a twofold war, externally confronting the atrocities of World War II and internally reconciling personal heartbreak. Eventually, she finds salvation in a new world where she documents her memories of survival. In My Hands, by Jennifer Armstrong.
I saw my parents' kindness as an inspiration to become a volunteer for the Red Cross. I was becoming aware that Hitler was determined to revive the power of Germany in the eyes of the world. But much of the land Hitler wanted was ours.
All around me, people started renouncing their Polish heritage, speaking only German. And in some shops, there were signs that said, "Don't buy from the Jews." I shivered whenever I thought of people living like hunted animals, of executions, deportations, invasions, and massacres. You see, during the war, I was forced to work in a German dining hall overseeing the Jews. I looked at them all, pale and emaciated from years of hunger. I had to take action, even though the consequences for helping a Jew were severe. I was working as a maid in a German officer's home, and I was hiding the Jews in his basement because no one would ever suspect it. But when he discovered my secret, I begged him not to let innocent people be killed, and in his rage, he looked at me and asked if I thought he would keep my secret for nothing. His breath smelled of vodka and tobacco. And he found the buttons of my blouse, and I tried to push him away, but he held me down. Shame and humiliation flooded me the moment I opened my eyes the next morning and found myself in his bed. I knew this was a shame I had to bear alone, so I fled from that abuse. And despite years of self-sacrifice and devoting my life for others, I even managed to find happiness in the midst of war. One moment I had been utterly alone, and the next moment, there was Janek. Love at first sight is every girl's dream, no? Suddenly, every sweet song I ever heard made perfect sense to me. I loved Janek the way a priest loves God, without question. And I joined his resistance group without question. One day, Janek and I were walking along a stream, and the sunlight glanced off the water onto Janek's face, and I said, "I know I should not be happy. My family is far away, and yet I am happy." And he said, "Irenka, I love you. I want to marry you." And I told him, "I want to marry you too." Our group continued its guerrilla warfare, but I took my time out as a bride. I was at Raidel's house, and his mother was pinning up the hem of my wedding dress when Janek strolled in, catching me around my waist and swooping me off my perch, and I asked him why he had come to see me, to which he replied that he had the opportunity for an ambush on the Germans that night. And I told him not to go, but he was already on his way out the door. But he stopped and blew me a kiss. And then he was gone. Janek was killed in that ambush. My love at first sight was And again, I was alone. I wanted to kill myself, but instead I threw myself into my work. I dressed as a peasant and drove wagons with guns buried in the hay. And if I was ever stopped and questioned, I always smiled at the officers, and they smiled back. But in my heart, I was seeing them dead. Janek would have been proud. Finally, the war was over, and all around me, people were coming back to life. In the summer of 1949, a U.S. delegation had come to interview us, the survivors. And through this interpreter, I told him my story. I think I wanted to shock him, to tell this well-fed American what a simple Polish girl was capable of. He finally just put his pen down and stared at me. And for a moment, I thought he did not believe what I had just told him. He said something to the interpreter, and then he told me he felt honored to have met me, and that the United States would be proud to have me as a citizen. And all I could say was, me? America?
America. Like a bird pushed from its nest, I had been forced to learn how to fly. This series of occurrences were all connected in some way that led me to my destiny. To this day, I believe that even in our darkest hours, everything that happens to us happens for a reason. In my hands is my will to do right, to tell you, and to remember.